August the 23rd, 2019. Guys, we're not quite at the 8 p.m. update from the National Hurricane Center, but I want to do this one while we still have some daylight satellite imaging available. Now, we'll update this a little later. But you've got the system coming in that's just off the south tip of Florida. Now, if you remember, guys, in the model yesterday when we were first watching the storm, and it was an advanced model, and it showed the storm coming into the south tip of Florida and splitting. One section, if you didn't see it, go back and check it out. They were very accurate. One section goes across the southern peninsula of Florida and either goes into the Gulf or goes back up. And the other section just starts moving north from that point. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing. Now, AccuWeather is also watching the system in the Gulf, and it's starting to get some very interesting characteristics, and we'll look at that a little closer, guys. But again, I wanted to come in here when we had this much light, but we're going to look at some infrared also. Now, this is an update at 7 p.m. This is from Sky Tower out of Florida, guys. And everything shows that the storm is located just north of Miami, and almost every model except one has it moving ashore and then moving back out into the Atlantic and strengthening. We're at a 70% chance over 2 days and 90% chance once it gets back out over the open water. Now, one model, which is in the purple line, which is NVGM, which is the Navy model, Navy Global model, it shows it right here, not coming ashore, but moving up and through this same path. That's what I'm saying. The model of yesterday showed this thing splitting apart, because we're going to go to the close-up radar of this area, and you'll see that one section of the storm seems to be circulating, especially in the upper levels, and moving north the way that this Navy model or spaghetti model predicts. But everything else shows it moving ashore. There's actually two separate areas of circulation in that center. Let's look at that while we have some daylight. And guys, you can see how rapidly night is advancing from the right. That's why I came in an hour earlier than this new report that's going to come out a little later. Here, if you look very closely, you can see circulation right in this area. That matches that purple line, which is the U.S. Navy model. But all the other, and if you look very closely, right here is what they are tracking. Everyone except the Navy is right there, almost ashore, and I guess that would be north of the Boca Raton, Fort Lauderdale area, moving up the coast. And that's exactly what that model showed. Right now, we're seeing some wrap around here with the storm moving exactly north and east out into the Atlantic. But right here is what most of these guys are watching. Also, this lower section of the storm in the Gulf, again, that AccuWeather has pointed out, and they're watching it, is really exploding on the southern border. Look at the intensity and how fast these storms are popping up here. Let's look at it from a different filter. Now, switching to this particular radar or satellite imaging, this is what's called a day cloud phase. And as you see the sun setting, you can see it getting dark to the right here. It's turning strictly to infrared. And in the center of the Gulf, you're still seeing the orange coloration. And if you look very closely, the top of the clouds have that reddish orange tint, but the lower level clouds are still a light blue. Sometimes that will help you find different areas, but now watch or look right here in this area. At the top of the storm, like the model was talking about, you almost see a split and a different center of circulation forming. But right here, you can kind of see it wrapping up very quickly as it's moving up the coast. So we may have a split. Now, again, the models are showing that this thing will more than likely come ashore here and move back out like that. The Navy model shows a part of the storm, which they may be tracking a separate one, and excuse that red, guys, but a different separation in these systems, and that's kind of what the visuals look like on it right there. But notice how these clouds are starting to wrap in this direction around these major pump of thunderstorms. Irregardless of what happens, Louisiana and us here in central Mississippi have been getting rain throughout the day. Not real thick yet, but you can tell how it's coming. So check it out again. We got to watch this area very closely. It's a little further out than Barry was, remember, when it started forming. But if you look at this cloud formations here, it's definitely trying to start a center of rotation. Again, this is amazing to me to see the storm actually begin, and it appears that in the upper levels, you have a separation here, and right here is the fastest part of this lower level circulation. This is the section that has 70% chance of formation in 2 days and 90% chance over 5-day period. Now that was Invest 98, not Invest 99, which is out in the Atlantic. These are the models. Everything shows it moving across the Leeward Islands. You got a couple that start moving at north, and the Navy model here, again, the NVGM, has a loop on it. Who knows these days, guys, with what we're going through now. But that's where they're tracking this second storm. If we back out, look at the entire Atlantic Ocean, right here in the bottom center, this is the storm. It has a 40% chance of development in 48 hours and a 50% chance in the next 5 days. Also, this area here, guys, is huge, but it's running into some of that Saharan dust layer in the top part of it. We're still going to keep our eyes on it. It does appear to be moving more northwest, which would take it into the Atlantic. This is the one we just did the spaghetti model zone that showed it moving across the Windward Islands here. Here's your system in the Gulf. We really need to watch this bottom section. And here off the coast of Florida. Again, it seems to be a split, and that's an incredibly accurate model that we saw yesterday. But again, I wanted to come out while we had some daylight left, so we weren't looking at just strictly infrared images, guys. It's a heads up, and watch for a little later. This section of the storm that's just off the entering the southern tip of Florida starts to strengthen. We may come back in with a live feed, and if it's late, just watch for, like we did during Barry, radar with the National Weather Center or National Hurricane Center radio and their information coming in. If it's late, it's been a long day, everyone's tired. But if it looks like we're going to start to get serious there with any inland tornadoes or water spouts or any kind of wind damage, we will come back in live, guys. It's a heads up. Be safe.